I'm very excited and honored to be sitting here with our esteemed panelists to talk about what we think is probably the most game-changing trend in the fashion industry, which is that of transparency. And transparency, as we know, is trending. Already we see, I think, over 150 brands have disclosed their supplier lists, which is very exciting. We've seen significant developments in transparency. There's a transparency timeline on the app, so you can actually see all the different events that have, well, you can see it there, that have happened since the late 1990s. And we've come a long way since a group of students got their universities to publish their factory locations. So it's a very exciting time for transparency, and it's one that we, through the panel, hope to celebrate the role of transparency and talk about how it could be effective in improving the conditions of the global fashion industry. For us at CNA Foundation, transparency is extremely important. We've funded dozens of transparency initiatives. We've invested over 8 million euros over the past couple years. So it's core to the work that we do and our belief that fashion can be a force for good. And for the panelists, I know that transparency and traceability is very important. We have a very diverse group here that represent a brand, a retailer, a manufacturer, and a movement. So we have a very diverse and hopefully insightful set of commentary that you'll see soon. And I'm very pleased to introduce the panel. We have here on my right Amanda, who is the VP of Product Quality and Responsible Sourcing for Target. We have Frauke, who is the Corporate Responsibility Director for G-Star Raw. We have Mostafiz, who is a Managing Director of Denim Expert, as well as the founder of the Bangladesh Apparel Exchange. And last but not least, we have Ursula, who's the co-founder of Fashion Revolution and the creative designer. So welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
But first, before we begin, I want to start with a couple definitions, because when we talk about transparency, we may not be talking about the same thing. It may seem simple, but I think it's really important that we're all clear what transparency means. And for us, transparency is disclosure of information in a standardized manner that is accessible to all and enables comparison. That seems very simple, but it's not. Sometimes the data that's disclosed cannot be compared. Sometimes there's data available, but it's not publicly disclosed. So that's what we mean by transparency. Now, traceability is slightly different. Traceability is really around the ability to discover information about when and how a product is made. It involves visibility, it can involve disclosure, but it's not necessarily the same as transparency. And for us, when we talk about information, we want information that can be tracked, be collated, and be aggregated to tell a story. Finally, you can ask questions of this panel. We're going to get started now, but if you go to the app, it's very easy. You go to the menu, then program, then click on this session, and at the bottom you'll be able to ask questions. So please do, and we'll pick those questions that we think are the best ones. With that, let's get started. So I want to start with the first question, which is really around the why of transparency, and specifically, why is transparency important, and what is your organization doing to accelerate it? So if I can start with Ursula to kick us off.
Okay. Oh, does this work? Yes. So transparency, really is the first step towards a different culture for the fashion industry, one where brands become accountable and open, and where consumers and citizens are ready to scrutinize and ready to stay vigilant. Fashion Revolution really was born out of a crisis, the Rana Plaza disaster, and our first cry was about transparency, looking for transparency, looking for the people who make our clothes. And it's been like that for the last 5 years. We have our hashtag, Who Made My Clothes, which has reached millions of people and ignited countless conversations. And it even started its own reply, I Made Your Clothes, which is growing every year, and it shows that producers do want to be visible. In addition, we also publish our Fashion Transparency Index, and last year's 2017 was downloaded over 40,000 times. So we are putting transparency in the fashion map.
Great, thank you. And this is your third year of the index, I understand.
Yes.
Which is very exciting. Mostafiz,
Yeah.
why is transparency important to you as a manufacturer?
For me, transparency is all about trust. Trust, if I don't have trust from my buyer, or my buyer don't trust me, or the consumer don't trust to the buyer, or what we are doing, so it's all about the trust, start from there. And then obviously transparency bring you traceability, and traceability start from accountability. If I don't know who is my father, then who will be accountable for me, whatever I am doing? So I need a father. So who is my father? So I need first traceability, then I need accountability. So for me, all about transparency is all about the trust. What my organization is doing, before that I came from Bangladesh, I want to tell what my country is doing, then I'm going over there. After the Rana Plaza disaster, what happened in 2014, that we European buyers and community had formed Accord and Alliance. Today we have 4,500 factory. Every factory had been inspected one by one. You can go to the website, it's publicly accessible about Bangladesh, any factory. 88% factory had been remediated, and fire, safety, health, everything had been put in the website. As for my organization, I think the first of thing is I am transparent with my worker. I speak with my worker every day. I share my vision. I tell them what is going to be happen, what I am doing, what I am expecting from them. My clients are sending always people to my company, unannounced audit. My buyers are here. People is coming to the factory, checking the salary, how much we are paying, what is the health and safety conditions. We always welcome anybody to inspect the factory in all the time. We are always welcome about that. And as well as anybody in the hall can go to our website, Accord and Alliance, and can see everything what we are doing. How much we are paying the salary, what is the condition of the health and safety, what is the fire things we did, what is the remediation we've been. It's open for the public. And my last thing is, I have a mobile number and I have 5,000 employees. On my backside of the mobile, my all workers have my mobile number. And whenever they need me, they can call me. I'm always transparent and I'm always communicating with them. Thank you.
That's wonderful. And any of you can send him a WhatsApp at any point, so.
Yes. Some of my colleagues always say to me that, hey, Mostafiz, your worker is writing on your Facebook. Don't you feel bad in my country? I said, I'm the most proud owner in the whole world. If you go to my wall, you see all my workers are writing over there. I'm transparent. I am accountable. I'm traceability. And I think it's all about, it starts from there. I'm always open for that.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mostafiz. So let's turn to, yes, thank you. And a shining example. I hope more manufacturers adopt such a view.
It's coming. It's not in Bangladesh. You all probably sitting in the hall. You know I meet a lot of friends when I'm coming. I'm the first person from Bangladesh over here, and it's very easily noticeable. But my friends, I'm not scared. I am here to give you answer of this. It's changing. Things are changing. It will take time, but thanks to everybody that you people are driving us because of the transparency. Now we are forced to do it.
Yeah.
We are forced. There is no possibility to hide anymore. There will be no Rana Plaza anymore. It's not possible anymore.
Yes. Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Great. Frauke, G-Star Raw has been incredible in terms of your accomplishments in the sustainability field. So why transparency, and how are you tackling it?
Yeah, from the brand perspective, I think we're in the same boat in a way. We see that transparency really improves the change, and it really makes the change. It improves workers' rights. You build trust and credibility. But it also advances your own strategies and policies, so it advances your ethical business practice. And within G-Star, it has been very important, it has really pushed us further. So we started publishing in 2006, for example, the Code of Conduct, something every brand starts with, the basis. And as of then, it has moved us into publishing our suppliers online in an online manufacturing map. So if you click in our online store, you can find out where the product is made, and we give a lot of details there. And we've seen that it has really pushed us also in collaboration with NGOs, other brands, and then we signed up to the Transparency Pledge to also show that what it can bring, and that other brands should also join us in this.
And are you finding, is that being driven by the company, or are your customers asking for that?
Customers are also asking for it. We see over the last, I think, 5 years, 5 years, more and more customers want to know where their product comes from. So they can make more informed decisions if they know where something is made. And I think we need to move in giving more standardized information as brands, so that consumers can also make a decision and make an informed decision, because the information and the data we give is the same.
Yeah, great, thank you. And I think moving to Target, Target's a very different animal. You have thousands and thousands of SKUs. You work across multiple product categories. Why is transparency important to you, and how is Target addressing it?
Yeah. You know, I'll start by saying, you know, we have a purpose at Target, which is to bring joy to all families in everyday life. And I see that as not only our consumers, but our team and our partners, which includes the people that make our product. And I'll tell you, we do hear from our consumers, which we call guests, more and more that they will be more loyal to brands and retailers that have ethical and sustainable practices. So we know that that is not only good to do, but it's good for business. We also honestly are hearing more and more from our team. We employ over 380,000 people, and people want to know what Target's doing and how they source product. And so it's actually helping us recruit and retain talent. I would say the investors are also asking more and more, post-Bangladesh, the Rana Plaza tragedy, what are we doing not only to give great business returns, but how we do that business. As far as what we're doing, you know, we were the first, in 2014, we published our first tier suppliers, and in 2016, we were the first US retailer to publish our Tier 2 apparel suppliers. But we realize that's just one step. It really is a holistic program for us to have the knowledge so we can actually improve the work. One of the things that we have done recently in January is partnered with the NRDC in the US and the IP in China, where they did a green supply chain mapping. And now in China, wherever we produce, we've provided all our suppliers. You can see our Target bullseye, and you can actually see the performance of those suppliers in terms of emissions, in terms of wastewater discharge. And not only can you see what they're doing, you can see how they're responding. I will say we're also looking at further upstream how we can continue to make a positive impact. We're doing a pilot in North India where we're working with LaborLink to actually use mobile technology to track trends. This isn't about tracking people, but to work with partners like NGOs to invest in those communities so they actually have the knowledge to ask for workers' rights, right? What is a fair contract? What are my wages? How do I get them documented, my hours? And how do I make sure that I'm working in an environment that is safe? So we absolutely see it as a holistic body of work, and supply chain transparency is just one enabler for us to have the knowledge so we can be engaged in what is happening.
Fantastic. And it's really inspiring to be sitting next to two early movers in this space.
Sure.
So congrats to both your companies for that. Let's get a little bit more tangible. And thank you for those examples. I think that helps bring it a little bit more to light. I'd love to understand from you all how transparency actually can lead to real change. Because we talk about how transparency creates more accountability. And with more accountability, you do see behavior change. But what are we seeing in the field? Are there examples of how this actually led to a change? Maybe Ursula, I'll go back to you.
Well, I mean, I see change here. You know, I think that transparency provides this open door. We can't fix what we can't see, so we need this visibility, we need this understanding. And, you know, for us at Fashion Revolution, we are really seeing the change every day. We reviewed 98 brands last year, and this year we've seen an increase in disclosure by 5% minimum, 20% in certain cases. I mean, this really does show to us that brands are willing to show us, you know, to tell us about their practices, you know, working conditions and environmental practices. So we see this as a very tangible change in behavior when it comes to brands. When it comes to citizens and consumers also, you know, we have a rather large audience that speaks to us and we hear them. And we know that they want to buy a product that is made by a brand that looks good, that does good, that is accountable, that is open. They want that information. You know, especially for the younger generation, this is a question of shopping, but it's also a question of survival. And they want to see the products that they buy made in dignity. And, you know, it's we want to see the full supply chain. Brands need to disclose how the clothes that they're making, the products that they're making, how they're happening from beginning to end. They need to make this easy for us, as easy as it is to buy their clothes, and we are beginning to see this change happening.
Yeah. And one thing I love about the €2 t-shirt video that Fashion Revolution did is the tagline, when people know they care.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's happening more and more.
I think it's a conversation between brands and their customers. I think this is where the change is that there was no conversation before. You know, we were presented with a product and we bought the product. And now we are beginning to interact about this product and we want to know the story behind it.
Yeah.
It's a big shift.
Yeah. Mostafiz, I'm going to come back to you because I want to move to the brands because we were touching on the consumer. So maybe if I can, Amanda, ask you, in your view, what's an example that you've seen of how transparency can lead to real change?
Yeah. I have two examples, recent examples I can share. The first would be in regards to work we've done with getting more transparency on our denim. So again, when we asked for Tier 1, I think there may have been a little resistance because maybe people thought we wanted to get involved in where they would buy their fibers. And honestly, for us, we really wanted the transparency and we wanted everyone to be proud of where they were getting their products. We actually did a test with denim to actually go further and actually do product mapping, where then you're talking about, metal for the zipper, you're talking about all of those pieces. And, in full transparency, I will share with you that wasn't an easy task for us to do that last year. And what we found is some of the further suppliers weren't aware of our compliance standards, of really what our social compliance was, and it was really a great opportunity for us to educate and to align. And what we found is people wanted to be known that they were part of our supply chain. They actually wanted to share that information as you got further out, that they were part of Target's supply chain. And so it really was about creating those relationships and creating that transparency. Another example I'll give you is in regards to a partnership we're doing with Nest. And it was an organization founded 11 years ago in service of homemakers and home workers. And what we found is it was a part of the supply chain that, again, wasn't being seen. And home workers are one of the largest populations of workers. And what we found is we're now working with Rebecca, the founder of Nest, to actually, and Ivanka's doing this work, to actually work on creating home worker standards. So again, you're talking about working together to bring visibility to a part of the supply chain and actually hopefully improve and empower and create better conditions for everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you. Frauke?
Yeah, one of the examples that I think is more broad and shows that it's also about collaboration is, I think the Bangladesh Accord is double-sided, as I just discussed with Ursula, but there all the brands, but also NGOs and the manufacturers had to start working together to improve health and safety, and brands had to be transparent and share with the NGOs where they were producing, and it has really shifted, it has really improved, is what we've seen with our suppliers. And what we did is that with our online manufacturing map, where you can find more details about where your product is made, we made a direct link to the reporting done by the Bangladesh Accord, so you can easily find out how our factories in Bangladesh are doing, at which level within the accord they are, and if they finished all the improvements they had to do. But I think as a manufacturer, you can, not everybody is happy with the Bangladesh Accord, but I've seen it has driven and it has improved many things within Bangladesh, and also within brands being held accountable for where they are producing.
Yeah, and that's a fabulous example. And I guess, Mostafiz, is everyone happy with Bangladesh?
Yeah, that's the question I wanted to tell. Actually, there is no matter of you are happy or not happy. You can't produce in Bangladesh if your factory is not approved by Accord and Alliance. Tell me where you had the room to be happy or not happy. It's not possible. If your factory is not approved, I'm in this business last 20 years. People say I'm quite young, 38 years. What happened, Mostafiz? Yes, I am in 20 years. I started my job as a $30. Today I have more than $100 million. So I'm just telling to you the fact from Bangladesh. Believe me, it's not possible. You can't produce in Bangladesh if your factory is not approved by the Accord and Alliance. It's not possible. Most of the time, my friends from different brands and retailer ask to me, hey, Mostafiz, I want to bring this factory as my vendor. They make a lovely blazer. How can I do it? Because the factory is not getting passed by the Accord and Alliance. So there is no legacy anymore that you like or you don't like. It's a fundamental rules now that if you want to produce, if your factory is running, you have to pass through Accord and Alliance. Now, this is the answer of her. Now I go back to the questions, what you asked. First of all, how the brands had been, your question is how the transparency is pushing us to be changed.
Yeah, tangible examples.
Tangible. You are the first tangible example.
Yes.
For me, you are the first tangible example. When you were in Chittagong, you made a transparency conference. When I was there, everybody was asking to me, what is transparency, Mostafiz? What is this for? I'm making an exhibition, a non-profit organization. So I gave a name of the exhibition 3 years back, transparency. And everybody was laughing to me. How can you give the name of the transparency? But when I go back home, I see now people is talking more than me. CNA Foundation is making now in Bangladesh factory mapping. In the factory mapping, it is almost completed. When it will be completed, all of you will see which factory is located where. Obviously, in the Accord and Alliance, you can also see now, but you will see their safety, fire, and all these things. But what the thing CNA Foundation is making the factory mapping is like which factory is located where. You can also see the factory is producing for whom. At the moment, you can't see it. So tell me one thing, my friends, how the responsibility, accountability, traceability, transparency coming? If you don't know the factory is producing for whom? CNA Foundation is making this one. So there is no scope that you escape from the transparency. Giving you some changes, I can tell you what changed me from my organization. My organization was one of the best model for doing this. And I had been worked more than 3 years to change my factory. Lot of fire door, lot of health and safety, and we are thinking always perfect. Why we did all these things? Because there is a demand of transparency. If I don't do this one, these things will be in the website. It will be coming in front of the public. And also, if you see in the world, out of the 10 best green factory, Bangladesh having the 7 best green factories in Bangladesh. Why this happened? Do you think that it happened from responsibility? It happened from the accountability and traceability, and this because the transparency. I'm not going to what consumers demand. Maybe my friends can tell better than this, but I can only tell what they want. How they're pushing us to be more transparent. Believe me, if there is no transparency, if there is no transparency, Rana Plaza is only an example. Why we talk about Rana Plaza only? I am thinking further than Rana Plaza. There could be more disaster if the transparency is not there. So in one word, my friends are always pushing us to be transparent. Anytime they're sending the audit, we are always ready, because when there is an unannounced audit, brands and retailers send the people directly. And if you are failed, immediate in 2 minutes, one system, everything blocked. You can't produce for it anybody else. This is simply not possible. And you all will be happy to know that before I'm coming over here, a few days ago, with the help of ILO, we had started, from the Bangladesh government, had started LIMA, that is a labor union information. You can even track it, the factory having how many labor union, what is the worker bargaining committee, does the factory have WW of committee or not? Even you can track that. It's going beyond the things what already you people had been pushed us. We are now going to show you the factory, does they have the union? What is the bargaining committee, is there or not? Is it functioning? You can see all these things always working for us. So for me, I will tell to you that I can't think anything without transparency, and is beyond the Rana Plaza for me. And I would like to invite all of you. I'm ready to host in Bangladesh. Please come. Let's see the factories. Let's go together and let's make a summit and conference over there. How the transparency is pushing us to be more safe and better.
Wonderful. And again, you can send a WhatsApp to Mostafiz to take him up on that very kind invitation. We're starting to get some good questions coming in from the rest of you, which we'll go to after one final question. Please do note, you not only can ask questions, but you can vote on questions that have been asked. So I'm going to pick that has the most votes. So final question for me. If transparency is so good, and it's really inspiring to hear all your stories, why is it not happening? What are the barriers that you find, and how can we overcome these barriers? I'll start with you.
I think it comes from the top. I think you really do need a high level of leadership engagement, because the reality is it does require resources. It requires data, it requires technology, and it requires the ability to organize the data in a way that you can easily retrieve it and take action. So I would say, my advice for everyone in the room is, Target is a pretty big company. We have, obviously, we represent most categories, and it's pretty complicated. It's all about starting. And I think what I'm really proud about what the team has done at Target, it's not just about one step and then you check the box. It's really about a holistic program of how can we make a difference? How can we make a more positive impact on our purpose? And by doing that, it may feel slow at moments, but it's really about that holistic program of not just looking at the transparency alone, looking at the real issues that are in the way and working with partners and NGOs to really make a difference. So I would just say start. Have the conversations with your leadership, really hold everyone accountable in the company, that if this is part of your purpose and you have that alignment, how do you ensure that you're getting the right resources? Because the reality is it is a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Ursula, can I ask you to jump in?
Well, I mean, there are several barriers, I think. The fact that brands don't trust it, they haven't tried it for long enough. The fact that there is an issue of competition in publishing your manufacturers, for instance. But there is also a cultural barrier. The fashion industry, the fashion supply chain is built on secrecy. It's as inefficient as it is opaque. The entire culture of fashion is built on, elitism and closed doors and unavailability. So we're looking at something which is really disrupting the whole fabric of the fashion industry as we understand it right now. So in that sense, it's both a breath of fresh air as well as a very useful weapon to really, change something. In the sense that, as we said previously, the fact that we want to know that our clothes are made in dignity wherever they're manufactured, the fact that we want to expose and understand the whole of the supply chain as a system is a barrier to a certain extent to the fashion industry itself and the way that it's been operating for so long. When you talk about these gigantic failures of transparency, I can only think of Rana Plaza, really, to start with, and how, as you say, this wouldn't be possible now. But the fact that there were brands just after the aftermath that didn't know whether they were or weren't producing there is a never again moment. And, to defy all of this, to defy this culture, takes a big change.
Yeah, absolutely. Franca?
Yeah, I think many of the barriers have already been shared. The regular ones of that you competitive disadvantage, etc. But to us, it has been the transparency has led us to becoming one of the more leading brands in being transparent. Also, with a failure more than 12 years ago, where we had a social conditions issue with one of our suppliers in India, and the Clean Clothes campaign started discussions with us and challenging us. And I think that at that time we still are a privately held company, and we were very close. So we thought, nice that you come by, but we're not going to share anything with you. We're not going to show you what we're doing with this factory and what audits we do. Why should we? So it has really pushed us to understand. Okay, that doesn't work. There was a big fight. It took us 5 to 6 years. It was in the media. And then we learned that, if we're open, we're transparent, we show what we do, we share audits with NGOs who ask for it, but we can take a step further. We can also show it online. We can show it consumers. It really helps to collaborate with others. You can improve your strategies. It really builds trust. So, as Amanda also said, you need as a brand to be open and to be transparent about where you produce and how you do it, because it really drives your strategies internally further. It can help you if you're responsible for sustainability within your company. It can also help you a lot.
Definitely. Mr. Fitz.
I probably say something maybe many people will not like. Let's start with something. I came Copenhagen earlier also. I bring one of my colleagues yesterday from Bangladesh, and I took him to eat the food with me. And I told him, let's go to organic food. He said, what is the organic food here? I said, come, I show you. This is a different city with me. And I took him there, and I paid the bill, and he said that, wow, it's much. I said, you have to pay for it. You want organic food, you have to pay for it. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing is free in this world, only the air and sun. Yeah, you can laugh to me, but this is the truth. We can talk a lot, but we have to pay for that. Are you going to pay for the transparency? Consumer is willing to pay for that. Who is the responsible for educating them? I cannot educate. I'm a manufacturer. My bosses are here. And then bosses is communicating with the consumer. Whatever they are telling, I'm a price taker. I'm not price giver. I take the price from my clients. I think for me, the biggest barrier for the transparency is cost. Somebody have to pay for that. Either it is manufacturer, it is brand. At least I got one clap for Rana Plaza. Rana Plaza, I am so much worried. Before I am coming, my colleague said that, are you going there? They all will talk about Rana Plaza. I said, let's go there and face it. Anyway, so my friend, the thing is very simple. I'm always going to my country. I'm always explaining to, by the grace of Almighty, a lot of brand retailer, a lot of people sitting here. Maybe we didn't meet, but they all are my friends. I know many people. You all know very well, if I don't get more money, I'm not interested. When I want to work for my factory, I'm always looking for more money. How can I earn more money? If I have no money, how can I pay to my worker? Believe me, I always like to pay to my worker. I want to pay more money. But I don't have my father, I don't have bank. I go to my factory morning 7 o'clock, coming 10 o'clock at night, I'm working like an animal. But where I get my money? I need money to pay my worker. I cannot take care of them, it's not sustainable. It's really not sustainable. We need to pay for the transparency. Transparency, yeah.
I'm going to cut you off there.
Yeah.
He needs to be paid more. So let's just summarize.
No, by the grace of Almighty, I'm fine with that. I just want to take care of my people, and I just wanted to do something for the industry. Anyway, let's come to the questions. First of thing is barrier of the transparency. For me as a manufacturer, gentlemen, we have to pay for that. Either it is consumer is going to pay for that, brand is going to pay for it. We are going to support for our brands. We are going to do whatever they are saying. They need to communicate to the consumer. Consumer have to pay for that, as I paid more money yesterday for the food.
Sure. Okay, we got that point. Thank you.
Okay.
I think it's a really important point. So thank you for pushing that.
Okay. Second thing, I have one more question.
Very quickly.
Very quickly.
Very quickly.
Okay. Transparency should not be barrier for me. I will not be transparent if it is competitive disadvantage for me. I am a factory, they are a factory in China, other factory in Cambodia, one is America. I am always transparent. I am everything, and my competitor is not like this. When I go to my buyer says, Mostafiz, these jeans I am buying from X country in $8, you are $7. But why I am $7? I have to pay to my worker. I am transparent. I am doing health and safety, fire and everything. So to request to you, if you wanted to be transparent, please make sure that everybody is equally transparent. So we all in the level playing ground.
Yeah. Very good points. So level playing field. Let's move to some of your questions, because we still have quite a few things to do in the 6 minutes that remain. I'll pick the top one, because we've had quite a few votes for that, which is, with all the various certifications in the fashion industry, how can we integrate the systems so that there will be one universal set of transparency and traceability principles? Will this happen? Anyone want to take that? Anyone besides Mostafiz? No, it's kidding.
You all like me, isn't it? I can tell it. Okay. This is the common questions wherever I am going to any. Before coming here also in Amsterdam, also I have the same kind of questions. For me, it's very simple. Listen, this is the truth. If the brand's retailer want, it's a matter of one-day job. When Rana Plaza happened, within a minute, everything changed, and then becoming the health and safety without Accord Alliance, it cannot be done. If they also want, it can also be done. We are really under big pressure for so many inspections, so many tests. So every day in my factory, why don't we make one universal code of conduct for everybody, not only for my factory, but for the whole world? So I just want to request to you that please save us, as you all help us to be more health and safety, worker well-being for the like the Accord Alliance. Please do something that I am working for 10 clients sending different people. I am making one door, other people is telling no like this. Give us one rule when we consented to follow this. Yeah. Please make one rule, one world, and let's work together to make it happen.
Yeah, then I fully agree with you. I want to add to that That's also something that currently within the Sustainable Apparel Coalition is worked upon. Within, of course, the HIC index and many brands.
But it's for environment only. HIC index is.
No, it's moved to labor as well.
We will hear more later today, I think, about Sustainable Apparel Coalition, but it will be broader. It will not only be about environmental, it will also be about social conditions, but also be about the brands. We also have to fill in certain modules. So that is something that I think the whole industry should join, and we need to move to a standardized format.
Yes.
Because I fully agree, it doesn't help that I tell you, okay, you have to put your fire distinguishers here and the next
That is
brand
happening.
here.
Once I'm
And that-
putting there, other people is telling remove there, and all day is going out of that.
Yeah.
Let's make it one rule.
So fully agree, and Baptiste is here somewhere
Yeah.
from SAC.
He can tell
find
more.
him over lunch. Have a chat. No, I think that is a very valid point, and we need more convergence in the industry. Let me switch gears, because I'd asked each of you as well to share to this group what would be your call to action, because we have this incredible group of influencers, we have brands, we have retailers, we have media, we have NGOs, we have platforms. What is your call to action to the industry to accelerate transparency?
You know, I totally agree with what has been shared here. You know, we may compete in business, but we do not compete with protecting our workers and ensuring that they're empowered and that they're in a great position to have the joy of everyday life. So I will tell you, one of the things that we are working toward is exactly what you just talked about. How do we work together? This problem is too big to solve on our own. We have to work horizontally and vertically. And I think the idea that we're here today and we're solving problems together around how we can have one set of standards that we can actually all abide by. So then when Target shows up, it's not about starting over, it's about going where we need to keep making progress work, right? You actually bring your resources and focus where the next step is versus all kind of stepping back and, you know, making the factory go through a bunch of processes just to kind of meet your checklist. So I'm really excited to be here, and I think part of it is us getting together and solving these problems together.
Yeah, great. Frauke.
Yes, as I said before, I really think that, and it's more a call to the brands, that if we all join the Sustainable Apparel Coalition and follow the roadmap to transparency that they have set up, then you need to take certain steps within the HIC index, and that will really drive the change, because then we have standardized information. We feel certain things in, manufacturers do, brands do, and it can be a way that consumers can also see the same type of data from different brands. So that will really help the change and make sure that consumers can make informed decisions in the future.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Mostafiz?
I would probably add one more word with you that consumer can see. How consumer will understand? Consumer is confused. We need to communicate in one language. Today this is green wash, this is blue wash, this is waterless wash, so many kinds of things. We need to communicate in one word about the transparency. If we can change after the Rana Plaza everything for that, because things have been demanding in the European community, why don't we also make a rules? If you are not transparent, if you cannot produce, very simple. You have no right to pollute the world. You have no right to take somebody's life. Very simple. I want to make you a rules, and you said there are a lot of important audience. I don't know any important audience, but I am leaving my this place by hoping that if there is a lot of important audience, this problem will solve. Make a rules like that. You are transparent. You have to be transparent. If you are not transparent, don't produce clothes. Yep. Sell burger or something else.
Thank you. And third applause. You're doing well here, Mostafiz. We'll bring you back next year. Before I go to Ursula, can we put the question up for the poll, please, so people can see that? Ursula, final word to you, and then we have a little poll for you guys.
Final words. Okay, so before I ask or call to action, I think I'd like to restate that, you know, for Fashion Revolution, we're very acutely aware that transparency is very much a first step. It is not a final solution. You know, we need to see change after transparency. And that's going to be when we will really trust that things are happening. You know, it is in a culture of secrecy, in a system built of secrecy, that social and environmental misuse can happen, as it is in an elitist and closed-door system that, you know, stigma and disrespect for diversity are acceptable. So the first thing that we know is that we don't thank those brands that are becoming more transparent. We don't necessarily praise them. We ask them to keep improving. And so this is our call to action. Keep improving. Because we won't stop until supply chain workers, all supply chain workers, not just garment workers, are paid a fair and a dignified wage. And we won't stop until we redress, to a certain extent, this mindless mass consumption, which has a massive impact, mass consumption and mass production, massive impact on our resources. And to the consumers, I say, keep asking who made my clothes, because we know that, this is being heard.
Yeah, absolutely. And transparency is indeed a means, not an end in itself. And with this poll, we asked you, how optimistic are you that we as consumers will actually have the information we need to make informed choices? The question is, when do you believe we'll have all that information? Most of you seem to think by 2030. So that's pretty optimistic. And that gives me hope. I'm not sure that's going to be the case. I think what Ursula was saying, this is a very complex and opaque industry, but it's really great to see the optimism. So thank you, everyone. From my perspective, we are over time, so I will not summarize, but this has been very insightful, and thank you for your contributions, and thank you to all of you for your questions. All the best.
Thank you.